Hello and welcome to all of you out there. Here is a new video with me, Veerle, about the Mars retrograde. And Mars retrograde is going to start as from, if you include the shadow period, and I'm going to explain everything about that, on the 12th of May up until the 10th of October, which is a huge, it's a lot of months, isn't it? Normally Mars stays in a sign like 6 weeks, maximum like 2 months. And now it's going to stay in the same signs for like 5 to 6 months, which is a large period of time. And Mars retrogrades it's one of the most important times. It happens every 2 years in a different sign, of course. And in my experience, Mars retrogrades, of course, we are taking now one thing out of the whole horoscope, which is the Mars retrograde. But together with other transits, if you're looking at a chart of a person and you want to predict, Mars retrograde is a very, very good tool to see when things are going to happen. When you want to do it tailor-made, of course, these are general horoscopes, so you will have the, you know, in general, a sort of an interesting flavor of knowing what's going on. But if you really want to have a look at your personal horoscope, for an astrologer, it's really a good tool to look at the Mars retrograde. I've seen many people's lives changing when Mars was retrograde, going on a certain personal planet. Now, what I'm going to explain is what it is, why, what we can learn from it, and then looking at each sign, which area of life it will affect, so to speak. But first of all, what is Mars? And I know that a lot of people think, oh, retrograde, it appears that Mars goes backwards, but it's an illusion, of course, because it's an optical illusion, because Mars is very close to Earth, and that's why it seems like it's slowing down. But the thing is that Mars, the planet, what is Mars? What is a good Mars? Let's start with that. What is a good Mars? A good Mars is being assertive. A good Mars is without a lot of drama, that you say what you want, that you are active, that you have an intention, you start things, and very often we forget that it's also about the ability to say no. The ability to say no. How many people are having difficulties with that? That's because of Mars. You know, when you have a good Mars, you can say no. And you can be respectful, and you can say, here are my boundaries. So Mars is a lot about asserting yourself. It's your willpower. And it's your own ego, your own willpower. It's not good or bad, but a very positive Mars is one that can, you know, do what it wants. It's aligned with the divine, hopefully. And it's really there to say, yeah, I do what I want, and I'm going to go for my goal, and I'm going to use my own actions, my own willpower to do so. That's a positive Mars. Now, of course, when Mars starts going retrograde, and when Mars is in that period where it goes 3 times over the same spot, and I'll explain in a minute, then it means that for all of us in a particular area in our life, even if we don't have any planets in those particular degrees that I'm going to explain in a minute, it means that we all are going to be super, super focused on a specific area of life. And mostly it starts with some kind of an issue or a problem, because Mars really, it wants to attain a goal, and it wants to fix problems. So what you mostly see when Mars is going retrograde, when Mars is even going into its shadow period already, but certainly when it goes retrograde, it seems that things are going tougher. We see the negative side of Mars, which could be either we go too fast, which is an arrogant Mars, so to speak. We push way too hard, and then we'll get stopped. Or either we don't have a Mars at all. We are seems to be lazy, or we are not active enough. And then we get pushed by the universe, so to speak, or by other people, that we have to apply our Mars a little bit more. So it depends, but all of us will feel either a bit the one extreme or the other, so we can come to the very positive Mars, which is a healthy Mars, which is solving problems, but you know, with respect for other people and without too much of a drama. So it's quite an interesting thing to start new things, to start like a new project, I started my astrology YouTube channel when Mars was retrograde, bang on my sun sign. So of course some of you will not feel it, because you don't have any planets in that area, and it's just an area of your life where there might be a little bit of more focus, but that's it. If you have, for instance, Mars retrograde in the 10th house, not aspecting any other personal planets, you won't feel it that much. You might feel like the 10th house is work. You might feel a bit of more of a focus on work or things that you might redo or do in another way, and that's it. So it's not all that life-changing. It becomes life-changing when there is this Mars retrograde going over your personal planets. Then it's a big one. Now it means new projects, new jobs, new relationships, new etc., depending on the area of life where it is in. So don't panic and think, oh, this is going to change everything here. No, you really have to have a look at not only at the Mars retrograde, but also, you know, the bigger picture, at what the hell is going on in your horoscope beside the Mars retrograde, okay? But it's very significant. When 2 years ago, Mars retrograde was in Scorpio, end of Scorpio, beginning of Sagittarius, and I have a Sagittarius rising. So, and it squared up to my personal Mars on Mars. So I knew, this is on the ascendant, which is your body. I thought, Mars and Mars, it's like, it's the physical body. So I thought, I hope I won't get any inflammation of some sort. And I did. It was a very huge a change for me when it comes to your personal your personal body, your body. So but you have to, what I'm trying to say here is, these YouTube videos are great if you want to study things. These YouTube videos are not so great when you're a bit fearful and you don't have the bigger picture and you think, oh, this is happening to me, bam. No, this is all, you know, what I'm trying to say is, if you really want to know what's going on, get yourself an astrologer and find out what's going on. But these are things in general. And let's have a look at my beautiful board here. So, if you've got planets, now first I'm gonna explain where it's going to be situated, that Mars, for such a long time. So the 12th of May, it goes into the shadow period. And these are the two signs, which are Capricorn and Aquarius, that are going to feel it the most. And when you have planets between the end of Capricorn, which is 28 degrees of Capricorn, then it starts going into the shadow period. So when you have planets, it doesn't matter what kind of planet, Mars or the Sun or the Moon or your ascendant or your midheaven. So also your the axes are very important, the midheaven or your ascendant. So when you have a planet at the very end of Capricorn, up until 9 degrees, so in this particular area, up until 9 degrees of Aquarius, then you're gonna feel it the most. So I mean 28, 29 degrees of Capricorn, 0 degrees of Aquarius, 1 degree, 2 degrees, and so on, up until 9 degrees of Aquarius. If you've got planets there, keep on listening. It's going to be quite interesting for you, because what Mars is going to do, it's going 3 times, so it's going 3 times over this little place, over this little area of your life. Well, not little, but these couple of degrees. So at the 12th of May, it's going to start here at 28 degrees of Capricorn. At around about the 27th of June, it's going backwards. It stops and it goes backwards again, walking over all those degrees. And then it stops again at the 28th of August. And then it goes direct again. So you see 3 times over this particular... So if you have, like, for instance, the sun here at 8 degrees of Aquarius, Mars is going to hit your sun 3 times. So that's why it's so important. And we are going to see around the 12th of May up until the 28th of August some problem coming up. Or some... You know, Mars, when it's negative, it's irritated, it's restricted and it doesn't want to be restricted. Or it goes too fast and it can't go fast enough. Or it's too lazy or whatever. And then on the 28th of August, we will see things are unfolding and things are going forwards. And then actually out of this shadow period, it's the 10th of October. So you see how long this Mars retrograde is taking, actually. Now, this is all very interesting, and we can all have a look at the areas of life, but I'm going to talk about 4 signs that are going to feel it the most. Of course, like I said, these signs are going to feel it the most, the end of Capricorn and the beginning of Aquarius, but also the opposite signs. Because then Mars will be in opposition towards your sun. So, also the people who've got Leo and Cancer, the end of Cancer and the beginning of Leo will feel it too very, very much. And then, because I'm explaining here the 4 signs that are going to feel it the most. Who's gonna feel it too? That'll be the other squares, and they will feel it in a square which is tension, which means there are going to be some changes there. And that is the opposition between Scorpio and Taurus. So Scorpio is going to feel it too. Taurus is going to feel it too. When you've got planets between 0 and 10 degrees of Taurus, 0 and 10 degrees of Scorpio, and the sign, now it's getting complicated, but bear with me, the sign before this, which is Libra, which is going to be the end of Libra and the end of Aries. So, if you're one of these people who've got, and again, if you don't know how to look this up, ask an astrologer, book a reading, and you will see. If you have planets somewhere here, you will feel it the most. And what are you gonna feel? Well, you're gonna feel that some area of your life, oh yeah, the flavor, some area of your life needs to change. It needs to be taken care of. So Mars, if it's repressed, basically, it's like depression, it's like things are not going forward. That's a repressed Mars, actually. So what happens now is a lot of people, they will have to take some action when problems keep appearing there. And what is the best attitude to do here? Because like 2 years ago, when the Mars was retrograde in Sagittarius, we had Saturn there. So the best application, the best attitude to take, whether in what kind of situation, was patience. Because Mars was conjuncting Saturn also, so it was quite a heavy energy. And it was an energy of don't take any shortcuts, but persevere. That was the flavor. That was the attitude that probably most astrologers would advise you if you've got like a transit going on of Mars and Saturn on a personal planet there. But now it's totally different. Now it's totally different. Who's important in this kind of Mars retrograde? Now, if we have a Mars retrograde, we need to look at what's going on with the other planets, and especially the slow planets. And there's some very interesting stuff going on. And it's another flavor. It's the Uranus flavor. So Mars is gonna square Uranus for 3 times. 3 times. Mars is so Uranus and the South Node are going to be so important during this transit. Why? Because at the time that Mars will be around end of Capricorn and the beginning of Aquarius, it's going to square, Mars is going to square Uranus. And that is a certain flavor. Uranus is a bit the opposite we had 2 years ago with Saturn, because Uranus, it says you're in a rut, babe. You're in a rut. You need to change. So these two planets actually understand each other quite well. Mars wants to go, and Uranus, it's the same. It wants it fast, and it wants it in a lightning, and it wants it, it's like the universe saying to you, you're in a rut and it's 5 before 12. It's that kind of energy. So a lot of people, and because of course this aspect is going to play out 3 times over such a long period. Normally you would have this aspect every year approximately, but this aspect would just last a couple of days, maybe a week, and now it's going to play out for like 5 months. So Mars square Uranus, what is this all about? As I said, it's like quick changes, it's sudden changes. It is not negative or positive, it is what it is, but it's shouting out, this needs to change because you've waited way too long, basically. So for a lot of people, again, I'll explain in a minute for the signs, it will be about, look, you know, but the problem is, if you're not going to change it, I'm going to change it, the universe is going to change it. So it's always better to prepare yourself and to go with the flow, to go with the energy that is, and to align yourself. This is a bit of roller coaster energy, yes, but it's there to awaken us. It's there to say, look, like for instance, if you're having this in your 7th house, yes, relationships will be affected for sure. Not really affected. It means that it's like a mirror that it's saying you waited way too long with this relationship to make the changes. It doesn't mean to say a breakup, but at least a change of how your attitude is towards this relationship and how this relationship is going to work out, for instance. So this is very exciting at its best. It's exciting energy. So for people who are going to have Mars or Uranus in a trine, for instance, in their horoscope for 3 times, this means sudden changes, but that are very, very welcome. So what is best attitude to take here? Well, to not resist it. So if we feel that changes are coming up, not resisting it, it's easier said than done, of course. I mean, if you're having this in your 10th house and you really don't want to change your job, but you feel, you know, your gut feeling that you have to, there might be a reorganization in your in the place that you work, and it will change. So it's better to try to go with the flow. You know, when you're in a roller coaster, literally in a roller coaster, you know that you're going to end up and you're going to have some fun when you let go a little bit. If you're really holding on to it and you're really frightened, it's going to get worse. But again, it's easier said than done. So for a lot of people, especially when they have planets between, you know, especially at the beginning of Aquarius and the end of Capricorn, they will feel that they're fed up with something. They're fed up with work, they're fed up with a relationship, they're fed up with a situation. And something needs to be done, and it goes quick because that's the Uranus thing. So the first time it really can give you an awakening. And but the thing is, Uranus wants us to wake up. It wants us to change. But the downside is that when we are a little bit younger, and it might be that we just want to change for the change. But so you have to be careful what you want to change. But the thing is, we will not have that much of time when things are going to happen. We will have to act fast, because otherwise we wouldn't have Mars in a square to Uranus. So the good thing is that we can prepare ourselves. So I'm doing this video quite early now. We can prepare ourselves to ground ourselves as much as we can. And what do I mean by grounding? By staying in a moment, by aligning yourself with the universe or with the divine. And if you don't believe in God, align yourself with the universe, at least to do the right thing. and then you will be fine. Then you will be able to make some huge changes in your life, which will be so much more having the feeling of being free, because that's what Uranus is all about. It wants to free us up of a certain situation. So that's one thing. So attitude to take, you know, prepare yourself by now, being very much in the now, being not too much in the future, not too much in the past. Ground yourself as much as you can. Do your exercises. Drink enough water. You know, all these very basic down-to-earth things are very good to do. Because when the lightning strikes, that you're prepared. You're prepared. Another thing is the South Node. Mars will be transiting the South Node 3 times as well, because the South Node is now at the moment around, I think, 9 to 10 degrees of Aquarius. So that means that Mars is going to conjunct the South Node. I don't know how to draw the South Node. This is a bit like this. That is also very significant. What is this all about? Is this bad or good? This is not bad or good. It is what it is. And but I'll explain. Mars with the South Node is actually a very spiritual position. If you have Mars with the South Node, it means that if you have this in a natal chart, it means that you know how to stand up for yourself. I have this actually in my natal chart. It means you know how to stand up for yourself. It means that you don't have to learn anymore to put your boundaries and so on. It means that you're pretty good with the Mars energy. You probably in former lives were either a soldier or you went through situations where you have gained willpower, okay? So people with Mars and the South Node, they learn in this life, it's an asset, but the older they get, the more they need to let go of that Mars. It won't fulfill themselves anymore, and I'm speaking out of experience here. You know, people with Mars conjunct the South Node, they can push really, really hard and make things happen, but at a certain age, around their 30s, 35, 40s, you know, it's not fulfilling anymore. And then they learn how to let go of that and to let God, to trust in the universe, so to speak. And to trust that, you know, it makes the selfishness of Mars less selfish. So I think this is really a good thing, especially nowadays. I mean, life, when we look in the newspaper, or it's all about, I would say, you know, the negativity of Mars. But if we have Mars conjunct South Node, we are asked here, what's the attitude? We are asked to align our actions with the bigger picture. So that's how I see it. And it's a very beautiful thing, because if we're not going to do that, we're going to be screwed. But so whatever it is, the area of life that is going difficult, it's not all about you. It's about the bigger picture, and it's a good time to ask the universe, or God if you like, what do you want me to do? And actually, if you're not believing in a higher power, at least ask your higher self of what can I do that doesn't only serve me, but serves the people around me. Remember, it's in Aquarius, which is a very human kind of sign, and Aquarius is all about the collective. So we are all asked here to do something, not only for ourselves, but actually for the collective, that makes everybody's lives better. And I think the combination of these two, with Uranus and with the South Node, it's very reforming. It's very, it's on a social level, very, very interesting. So I think on a collective level that we are going to see that that people, and hopefully not only individuals, but in general, that some good things are done, that it makes a better world here. So let's hope for that. Let's not get too idealistic though. It all starts with us. It all starts with the individual, and let's get started. I have a few minutes left here. For all the signs, what does it mean? Again, if it's your ascendant, it's the most important. If it's your sun sign or your moon sign, it's a bit less. Okay, so these are the flavors. When you are in Aries, this is happening in actually quite a fun part of your horoscope, which is the 11th house. So if you're an Aries, it's, you know, with all that energy in Aquarius, it's quite positive. The 11th house is about your objectives. It's about your friends. So what could, in a simple term, it could simply mean that you are between, especially between the 12th of May up until the 28th of August, you're changing your objectives, basically. You want things to, and it's a good time for that. You're changing your objectives. You want things to go different. You want to have, and remember, like what I said with being in a rut, and like I said with being spiritual. And being spiritual, I mean to see yourself in a broader perspective. It's not all about you. That's what I mean by being spiritual. I don't mean by sitting there and doing nothing. So for Aries, I think a lot of Aries people will change their objectives, will review them, and also friends. So there might be friends that you're saying, I'm crossing the line here, you know, asserting yourself in a good way. But maybe first a friend is really irritating you, and you say, look, I've gone too far. I expressed my Mars way too much. I have to say no, because this person is taking advantage of me, for instance, or the other way around. It could mean that a friend says that to you, and then you have to review it, you know, like, oh, maybe I am putting a bit too much of a dominant Mars upon this person. So I think for Aries people in general, very interesting. Now, next is for Taurians. Taurians, it's important. You're one of the 4 signs there, especially when you are an early Taurus. And it's happening in the 10th house, which is a key area of your life, which is work, which for most of you, it will be work. For those who don't work anymore, it's about what can I do? Let's say you're retired and you're having this. Then you can ask yourself, what can I do to be to do something for society? Because that's the 10th house. It's how other people see you. And it's society, it's your mission, so to speak. And you are looking at it and how can you change it? Now, for others who do have a job, around this, there's something that can, especially between that period of that shadow period and when it goes retrograde, it can mean quite an irritating period when it comes to what you want with your job. So there could be issues coming up that you're fed up with it, you know, remember Uranus, and all of a sudden it seems very clear that this is not going the way that you want it to go. It's a good time to take that into consideration and to take actions, but wait after the 28th of August to really put new actions there, because then things are going to be way clearer for you, what you're going to do. But it's a good time to reflect upon that. You know, when Mars goes retro, it's always a reflection time of how can I do this differently? How a wish that you're having that can free you up, because you're probably a lot of Taurians feel a bit, you know, a bit frustrated because they can't do what they want to do. Take your time. Uranus is in your sign. That won't last forever. You are here now, especially, you know, all Taurians, by the way, in those, they have 7 years to become more liberated and to, yeah, to do their own thing, and you'll be fine. But be aware that there could be a boss that is really irritating you, or there could be, you know, as I said, Mars is not handled here perfectly. Either you are too submissive, or either you are too dominant and wanting to make things work too much. And whatever it is, you know, you will adjust it, and you'll get there. You'll get there, and it's a good time now to think about it and then put your actions afterwards. Gemini. So for the Taurians, it's quite important energy. And for Geminis, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, really. For Geminis, it's happening in a very nice house, which is the 9th house. And Gemini and Aquarius, it goes well together. So for a lot of Geminis, it will be that period of time where you stand still when it's about your opinions and what you think about life. You know, the bigger picture. People could be traveling. Of course, when you travel, and certainly when Mars is the retrograde period, so that will be from the 27th of June up until the 28th of August. If you're traveling, it could be that there is some, you know, restrictions, some delays. Take that into account. But for sure that you could be very active whilst you're traveling, and you could be studying something that you already studied before. So it's a good period for that, because the 9th house is a very mind house, and you could be doing that, and that you're changing the way that you think, and which is huge, because it's also your opinion about life in general that can drastically change. And for instance, you might have always thought that traditional medicine was very good, and now you're looking, okay, traditional medicine is good, but what about alternative medicine? What about that? Or the other way around. It's shifting of your vision, which is interesting. Then we have Cancerians. This is Mars in the 8th house. Wow, this is very transforming, especially when you're having Cancerian planets at the very end of Cancer. Then you will feel it a bit more there, like 27 degrees of Cancer, 28 degrees of Cancer. And this could be finances, so there could be some things that you have to redo when it comes to money that you share with someone else. Or it could be that you have to work very hard in order to get an inheritance, for instance. There could be some hiccups there. What else? Taxes as well. That's all on a financial level. But for a lot of people, it's not a financial thing. It's more a psychological thing. So I've seen it quite often when people have Mars retrograde in the 8th house, they kind of battle their fears, big ones and little ones. So they battle a lot of psychological stuff. It could be very introspective. So not a lot of people will see how hard you are working out there, you dear Cancerians, but you are. So for a lot of Cancerians, it means transformation. It means sudden transformation, because Uranus is involved here. And some fears that can be solved here, that can be really tackled, because that's what Mars wants to do. It wants to solve problems, it wants to fix something. And is there something that you're really afraid of? Take your time. By the end of August, you will feel that you go forwards again. And that's really, really interesting. Then in Leo, Mars for Leos in the 7th house is again, Leos, it's a crucial it's crucial, especially when you have planets between 0 and 10 degrees of Leo. You will feel this transit a lot because it's opposite your own sign. And this is relationships. So for a lot of Leos, Mars will be going backwards, forwards in your 7th house. For some, it will simply mean it's more lively.